So our discussion for this panel will be on how fast-growing agencies are shaping the future of communications. So my first question will be for Asif.
Okay.
And so it is, how do you approach creating unique brand narratives that stand out in today's crowded digital landscape? And what role does storytelling play in disruptive PR?
Thanks for the question. I think it's quite interesting, and thank you for the opportunity, of course. If we look at the idea of storytelling, and of course, many of us in the room wouldn't exist if we didn't believe in the power of storytelling. But that aside, we think that the power of building any narrative or anything for a client rests on three pillars. One would be a fair amount of audience first understanding or an audience first approach. The second would be, to a great extent, agility, because in today's world, and especially with the advent of everything that you've heard before these panels, you'll realize that a lot of ideas, and even if you come up with great ideas, I think it's a matter of timing and how quick you are to take those ideas to market, and then leverage on some of those stories that are actually happening around you is important. And I would say to another aspect that I can think of, besides agility and besides audience first thinking, is the idea that we all believe in as communicators is being authentic, right? At the end of the day, the concept of building a narrative that really, really works for you is also about how you humanize a brand. Now, if you look at any example, I mean, two examples come to my mind when you ask this question. One was the Nike campaign that they did recently with a number of sportswomen from across the world saying, "You can't stop us." Or even the Coke Peace Machine, which was actually an activation first idea that became a PR idea. And that's what the factor is. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about how authentic you are, how much and how well you understand your audience, and then try and see how agile you can be to take the story out. A combination of these three should be helpful, at least in making sure that no matter what happens or what your client demands are, you're able to service them, you're able to manage them, yet at the same time, be true to the messaging. I mean, that would be my answer. I hope that suffices.
Sure, thank you so much. So my next question will be for Shutapa. And what disruptive techniques have you found most effective for engaging audiences in a digital first environment?
It's a very interesting question, because honestly the media space, the landscape itself is evolving so rapidly. 10 years ago, we placed so much importance on print media coverage, and today it's completely changed. The digital landscape has forced us to look at the tools that we're using, right? So now, I started Dharma 8 years ago, and prior to that, I was a journalist for 14 years. So I've seen, as I was telling him just now, that I've seen both sides of the spectrum. So we understand what will work with media, and we understand what won't. It's what won't work with media, your traditional media, that you can utilize on digital platforms. And today, PR is not just about getting coverage, but it's about building narratives and visibility on digital platforms without hoping for media attention. You want your consumers' attention, and you have brilliant platforms to do it. Instagram obviously is now everybody's go-to platform. More and more marketers are looking at Instagram, whether you're a big MNC, whether you're a small brand or a startup or individuals as well. And I think the hottest space, of course, is podcast. I mean, we can't help ignore what podcasts have done. We have our own podcasts, and many of our client partners have podcasts. And everybody's a content creator today, so it's a lot of competition for journalists. Everyone who has the platform and influence can create very compelling content. And that, I think, is the most crucial tool for any brand. Use the platform that you have complete control over. You can't control media, but you can control your LinkedIn, you can control your YouTube, you can control your Instagram. Use them to showcase a side to yourself which you normally can't buy, because let's face it, earned PR is always going to be better than branded content. And you're also able to talk more about your brand behind the scenes and, as he said, humanize yourself, because people want to identify with you. So for us, we see Instagram, podcasts, obviously YouTube emerging as some very interesting platforms. LinkedIn is a different ball game altogether. There, the influencers there are very different from the influencers on Instagram. So the content also changes, right? I mean, you can't have an Instagram content on LinkedIn and vice versa. Being able to distinguish is very important, and here too, at the cost of repeating, storytelling is key, content is key. How you shape the content and make it suit that platform is very essential.
Well, this is, you've hit the nail where it needs to be. And I'd just like to add one point to this whole thing, is that a lot of times, and especially in agencies and everybody in communications gets requests from people saying, okay, listen, we want to be trending. We want to be viral. Why don't you look at X brand and create something like that for us? Right? Fact of the matter is that, and this is something that we've come to know through data, and not just sort of calling it out, but it's more a data-driven insight, is that every viral idea was actually just authentic and simple. And the virality is in hindsight, right? Just the smallest thing that could have triggered off an emotion in someone that would then lead to a hashtag that would then mean that now there are a million people talking about something, right? So most ideas start off with being real, being true to what the brand is, what the message is, and then hope that many people will join with the story.
Cool. So the next question is for Abhinay Kumar. In a field that is increasingly emphasizes speed and agility, how do you incorporate emerging tools and platforms to craft impactful campaigns for your clients?
Well, Irfan, very interesting question for me, yes. But before coming that question, because the topic and disruptive PR and we are the fastest growing agency in India, I just wanted to share some of my feeling about the industry and the real challenge what we are facing as of now. Because India is growing, everybody talking about the 5 trillion economy, right? But let's see who is building this whole new ecosystem, new startup founder. Because the big company has the corporate communication who understand the real PR, how campaign should design that. But we as a company who are helping those companies who are coming from a background from tier 2 and tier 3 cities, they are very particular about to differentiate about marketing and PR. Okay, go to anyone, the campaign will be last, the first will ask you, okay, ET में coverage कब आ रहा है? And मैं 40 under 40 में कब आ रहा हूँ? So the right set of education is very important, and I'm proud that right now I'm sitting behind a journalist. She may be the one who have really
Former.
former.
Crossed over to the dark side.
Yeah,
to
because
the better side.
It's very interesting for us to also convince both sides. The journalist and the client, what should be a campaign you should design. My company tagline is, you build your business, we craft your communications. Communication means we always support the story. If you're a powerful story, definitely it's going to resonate with the, the audience. The initial step, startups and everyone, I first do education slot for 30 minutes. I tell them, okay, before going anything, just share your powerful story, how you have built it. Then come to your questions about your campaign and tools, what you are going to use it. So, if you are building a communication directly for your campaign to get funds or anything for that, definitely your communication should be the VC orientation. We can utilize that tool. But you directly wanted to communicate go with the regional media, right? In India, I've been in, Sushi Tech, Japan, and also Dubai. I just proudly want to say that everybody right now is respecting India value. And we as a PR agency also should design a campaign which should be resonate to the last audience from the India coming from a village or coming from that count. Campaign should be that, which should be resonate with that audience very much. About the tools, definitely tools is that we design a communication in a way that let's create a question and try to understand what medium you should use. Some of time, definitely you go to the media ways. The most of the time, as rightly mentioned by my fellow panelist, about utilize your own media, like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is right now the powerful, and Barun Dhawan has just joined the LinkedIn. This is the power you can communicate as much in terms of a video, in terms of other content format, we can do that.
Cool. Nice. Okay, next question is for Ruhani. In your experience, what are some of the key elements of a disruptive PR strategy that can break through digital noise and foster genuine connections?
Thanks, Irfan. I hope everybody is well today. I think disruptive PR, of course, a lot of clients come to us asking for different and unique strategies all the time. Most importantly, right, whenever we are working on creating something that is very different and very unique for our clients, we start by studying what the norms in the industry are. What is it that everybody in this certain industry is already doing? There have to be norms that are usually followed. People always think in the box. We rarely find people who think out of the box. So we start with that. We list down, let's say, 5 norms, 5 things that everybody in this industry is usually doing. If you look at the fashion industry, lately a lot of brands are doing flash mobs. That's kind of become a norm in the industry. So we always think about how can we break these norms? How can we think outside the box? So I think that would definitely be the first thing to look at when designing a disruptive PR campaign. I think number 2, you have to embrace paradoxes. Humor being one of the most important ones. It works absolutely fabulously with the large audience. You can't really go wrong with humor. So I think you have to embrace humor, you have to embrace paradoxes. I know storytelling, that is something that's been said often, but not the usual storytelling, right? A lot of times you can use notable days and think about how can you challenge the usual kind of concepts or the usual kind of stories that people usually follow. I think recently we all celebrated Men's Day, which has usually, it's not been done before, but it was so beautifully done by so many brands celebrating men, celebrating the power of men also having emotions. So it's not just about feminism, about women being equal to men, but it's also about men being equal to women. So I think that's, a new day that the industry has created. So yeah, I think challenge the norms, think outside the box. If you look at, I think international brands are doing this very, very beautifully right now. Ryanair, recently they put up a billboard in London and they had a seat and there was an air hostess who was actually sitting on the seat and she had a speaker in her hand and she was inviting people to come and meet her and she was actually talking to them and interacting with them and she was, she had a seat belt on, so she was fastened to her seat. So I think Ryanair did that so beautifully. McDonald's, they recently did this disruptive PR campaign where it was just a red board without the sign of McDonald's and people walking past the billboard could actually smell French fries. And they were just wondering where is the smell actually coming from. So I think there are lots of ways of doing this. You can have interactive outdoor billboards. You can use sensory motions such as smell, taste, touch, sound. So I think there are lots of ways to do this and I think a lot of brands are doing this really beautifully these days.
Thank you. Okay, my next question again is to Asif. And what role do you believe data analytics plays in driving disruptive PR campaigns and how do you see it shaping client expectations and outcomes?
Okay, we've just had an entire panel on AI and data, etc.
Exactly.
So I'm guessing it's pretty evident that some things are working. But I'll take the client question first. I'll take the client half of the question first. Right? For the longest time, people in communications and in PR have always faced this one challenge of what's the true ROI on PR? Okay, what do you do? I mean, is it SOV that was used at a time when digital wasn't, too popular? Is it the number of likes? Is it the number of followers you've gained? Is the kind of tractions, hashtag impressions, right? Everything is now, thankfully, because of the effective use of data and a fair amount of mining, is now something that's measurable and that's impactful, right? Now, what happens is that if we look at the first part of the question that you asked me, right, is the role of data. Okay. Today, we have enough tools to tell you anything that you want to know about data. In fact, one of my colleagues, Akash, always says that if you torture data enough, it will tell you everything you want to know about it, right? You just have to torture data enough, which basically means that you have to be able to look at data from every single angle and perspective in the context of your audience. You can look at debit card transactions of everybody who's ever swiped at a petrol pump and map it to their PIN codes, and you'll exactly know what offer to give them next season. But the intelligence is not in crunching the data, it's in making and drawing insights out of it. And we all know that insights are nothing but basic human truths that attach a brand to a consumer, right? I don't drink Coke because it quenches my thirst. I drink it because there is a feeling I get after it. And that's what the communication has enabled me to do. I don't stand in a line for an Apple phone just to be the first one. There is a certain kick I get in life by being exclusive. I don't say daag achhe hain for the sake of it, because I've seen my mother get scolded at, saying that, okay, kaise bacche ko paal rahe ho, dekho kaise ganda ghoom raha hai. But when you come and tell a mother ki daag achhe hain, it's basically a simple human truth that says, don't worry, you're not a bad mother. It's that one simple insight. Now, with data, you are able to do this at scale, and you're able to do another beautiful thing with data, which is hyper-localize it. Which means, considering the diversity in our country, right, one of the most beautiful things you can do is, you can actually use data to draw up campaigns that work for a particular cohort of people. Right? I'll give you one example. There was a very popular brand, a gold brand, that was about to launch a Diwali campaign. Right? Now, the creative was ready, everything was ready to push, go live. And the first thing they did was they checked the sentiment of the market in terms of the voices of people at a large scale to understand what are people talking about today. Now, unfortunately, right, they were talking about something that was a little negative. It was not a topic about the brand. It was a general sentiment of people was not happy that day. They held back their campaign because they realized that today spending that ad money would be a waste when the country was talking about something else. And it would also be insensitive to launch a campaign at a time when the country is mourning about something. Now this decision saved the client a lot of money, made the agency look smarter, and became relevant to the consumer. And all thanks to data. I hope that helps.
Sure. Okay, Shutapa, the next question for you. How do you address the challenges of maintaining authenticity and transparency in PR while leveraging innovative digital strategies?
Also, another very good question. We have a very saturated market. As I said earlier, everybody's creating content. How do you stand out? Finding your own voice, finding your own identity is going to be very crucial. Everybody is doing everything. So why should somebody pay attention to your brand versus somebody else? Uniqueness is very underutilized as a term. We strongly believe in being unique. Show what your USP is. Don't try to be a Me Too brand, right? Just because XYZ is doing something and it's working for them, you can go and try to copy that. Don't be a copycat brand. if you have the abilities, before you start a campaign, whether it's on digital or even mainstream media, any kind of PR campaign, find out why you're doing it, what your goals are, who is your target audience. These are the most basic things that we need. And also when we, kind of look at communications, my request to all the communicators who are here, do understand what distinguishes public relations from advertising. That's a very important thing that I find many people kind of, it overlaps, yes, but let's not mix it up. Advertising has its own requirements and they have their own goals. You as communicators have something very different to do for your brand. There is a fine line, and it helps if marketers, communicators know that fine line, and that will make your campaign very compelling. Going back to that, so how do we stay authentic? First, you find out what you want to gain. What is your uniqueness? What is your goal? Anything which is socially linked, anything which can bring out emotions in your audience, not fake emotions. The audience is very smart. You can fool them once, you can fool them twice, you won't fool them every time. So don't try and be a Paramatma when you're not, right? If you are holier than thou, you better be holier than thou of your digital platforms as well. So be very careful what you're peddling to people. We see a lot of crisis communication, reputation building happening to prevent a crisis, or a crisis of a brand has happened. A brand has said, we do this, but they treat their gig workers like crap. It comes out. It's a very transparent world. Anyone can put up a post and name and shame you. So you have to be very clear, very truthful to what your brand means, what you want to stand for in today's world. If you bring that honesty to your brand and you weave it to what your goals are, what your requirements are, who your TG is, you'll have a super evocative, authentic, truthful campaign that may take time to go viral, but you won't have a crisis. See, my issue is, let's avoid crisis. We always go in saying, we are managing crisis. My team, our first mantra is avoid the damn crisis. Hona nahi chahiye. Before you put something out there, you better be sure, both you and the client, and we call our clients client partners. It's a partnership. It's in our interest to make sure that they don't mess up. And if there is something wrong going from their side, we are equally, if not more, responsible. So let's prevent crisis by making sure that everything that goes out on social media, as well as mainstream media, has authenticity, has integrity, and then work backwards. I hope that answers some of it.
Yes. Okay, Abhinay, the next question is for you. With digital platforms evolving rapidly, how do you balance creative freedom with the need for measurable results in your PR strategies?
So इरफान, you are tall, लंबे हो आप, तो मैं कहना चाहता हूँ ये सवाल सबके लिए 1 करोड़ से ज़्यादा का होगा. सर्वे सर है, मैं आपके लिए वर्टी लेके सर ये कहना चाहता हूँ. I am in the PR from last 14 years. Every exercise, every month we have to educate our client ki what impact, how miserable you are, right? So everybody is finding, ये 8वां अजूबा है, कैसे how to educate our client about crisis. So if we talk about, so right now in India, the 3 decades has just completed about a PR. We are about around 2100 crore की हमारी पूरी की पूरी industry है. So if you talk about campaign, तो मैं कहना चाहता हूँ कि we have to be also भारतीयकरण of PR. Then we can educate our clients. I just wanted to liberty and give an example of 2 campaign which we did for our client. One is, so one of the very famous we did for Kulhad Man of India. So at the time when everybody was becoming a wala, chai wala, coffee wala, dhabe wala. So we had also a client called Chai Sutta Bar, okay? So name was very, that nobody going to resonate, Chai Sutta Bar, एक ही साथ था. Then we have suggested what is the experience we have take from, from a previous case study. Then I summarized the name of Shutapa is CSB. After that, we have started finding what is the uniqueness they have. So they have that you are utilizing, कि हमारे सर जब रेल मंत्री थे लालू प्रसाद जी, then I started कि कुल्हड़ का चाय पीना है रेलवे स्टेशन पे. So that uniqueness I have find out कि okay, he is not only generating business for ecosystem franchisee model, but he is also giving a revenue to villages around 5 villages. Regular they are getting around 10 to 15,000. And whenever he is going to village, people are doing, aarti. कि okay, आगे हमारे, the guy from 30 years old and giving a regular income. Government नहीं कर पाई, ये कर पा रहा है. So that resonate with that. At that we started doing a campaign about Kulhad Man of India. Definitely, we utilize our local platform. Also, we localize with the media. And that right now we do on Google search, we'll find who is the Kulhad Man of India. We are just building that. So that is a success. If you talk about miserable, I simple say to my team, just Google your name. PR, just find about, go to Google News. What is talking about you? That is one thing, parameter. And go to all sections. There is a website and LinkedIn. This is the 3 simple verticals. Don't go in a hi-fi, thinking. Just be 3 things. But if you are comfortable with 3 platforms, your website is good. You are giving enough information on blog section. You are good in LinkedIn continuously. You are enforcing your information to the target audience, what you are building it. And if you are good in Google News section, then definitely you are doing some really good ROI in the PR. Another I would like to take example, the KISS campaign we launched. What I understood in my childhood that, okay, everybody talking about right now, Ratan Tata ji ka example. Common people will, connect, okay, कि हमारे घर से कोई गया है. And we as an entrepreneur definitely worship, मेरा unfortunate मैं मिल नहीं पाया. Why people are liking that product? That ki, so what they did that मैं Tata में भी गया हूँ, for other. So I started working on that company called Curious Junior. उनके लिए KISS campaign we launched. And what we did that, K for knowledge. First we have to just share knowledge to our target groups. Then definitely we have to second go to I, it inspire to people who are really want to join. Either your maybe the employee, maybe your VC, everything. S is survey. Do the survey. Do the small survey around 100 people and find out. Second, a scholarship. If somebody is really using that platform or doing something, also facilitate that. So these are simple tools we utilize for our campaign, and that very successful. Right now, Chris Junior was definitely joint hand physics wala. So these are 2 examples I wanted to share to my fellow professional in the industry. So I just want to request to everyone, just भारतीयकरण होना बहुत जरूरी है PR का for a longer run.
Thank you so much. Ruhani, the next question, the last question is for you. As PR increasingly embraces unconventional approaches, how do you gauge the potential impact of a disruptive idea before taking it to the market? And what's been one of the most surprising outcomes from taking such a bold approach?
Very interesting. As you were talking about crisis communications and crisis management, we all really want to avoid it, right? That's first and foremost for all of our clients. A lot of times people will come to me and they'll want to, before like they've worked with another agency and they'll come with some idea and they'll be like, what do you think about this? And I always tell them, it doesn't matter what I think about it. It matters what your target audience thinks about it. So firstly, who is your target audience? Secondly, you need to run a focus group with your target audience to actually understand what they think about it, because they are your target audience. That is the larger customer who you're marketing to. So I think focus groups, very, very important, especially if you're trying to launch something or launch a campaign that goes against the usual norms of the industry. When we talk about this, I think one of the first campaigns that comes to my mind is the HPV campaign for Poonam Pandey that I think everybody's seen. So, perhaps if they did a focus group for that campaign and they actually recorded the actual emotions of, real people, their reactions, how they felt, they could have evaded such a big crisis on their hand. So yes, I think that's that's a good example of something that went wrong with an agency and a brand very recently. So I would recommend, number one, first and foremost, focus groups. Number two, while doing focus groups, you can use lots of features. There's facial recognition technology these days. So you can actually, you don't have to ask people how they feel. The facial recognition technology can actually understand the reactions of the focus group and report authentic reactions to you. I think secondly, so focus groups, very important. Secondly, I think you should always follow the advertising standards. So every country, I think in India we have the ASCI, they've got certain rules, regulations, how your campaign always has to be authentic and truthful. So I think those are basics. I think ASCI training for all of our agencies, I recently got it done for mine. I think that's very, very important for everybody to know what are the standards, the rules, the regulations that everybody should adhere by. These are really boring things to do, but it is something that has to be done before launching anything, especially something on a large scale. So yeah, I think I've answered your question.
Yes, that's good enough. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for being here with us.